Today, I'm going to share with you 3 life-changing techniques that take less than 15 minutes and are really, really impactful and beneficial for the rest of your life. Whether you start them at the age of 20, 30, or 50, they will have some of the biggest returns in terms of wealth, happiness, enjoyment, and success in your life. So why only 3? Well, I could give you 10, but of course their effects will be diminishing because, some of them just don't have that same level of life-changing impact. And also because I actually want you to actually do them. And if I just give you too many, you're going to be overwhelmed. Now, certain people have tried to answer this question in articles you'll find on Google. But the problem with their answers is usually they don't really back it up. In fact, I've seen answers on, websites like Quora and other articles, and there's really no credibility or reasoning to the answers they'll give. Some of them will say, "Oh, you know what's a great life-changing skill? Online marketing. Oh, you know what's a great life-changing skill? Learning how to video edit." And I'm just thinking, like, why? They don't even explain why. They just give you this massive list. And the worst part is, it's bad advice. There's no other way of saying it. Look, most people don't need to know how to video edit. If they're not interested in it, if they don't have a natural talent for it, if they don't want to make videos, then it's not going to help them. So I think it's rather foolish. But there's still a lot of surprisingly bad advice given out because anyone can give advice online, and there just so happens to be people with nothing better to do than to do this. So, of course, in the same respect, of course, if you want to give my advice to you, the same amount of salt, the same amount of skepticism, go right ahead. But I'll try my best to add logic and reasoning behind what I have to say so that you actually have some basis for them and you can actually see the results. So without further ado, let's just get started. I know you just want to skip right to it. So number 1 is exercise. Now it's so obvious, but let's get more specific. What type of exercise? We're talking at least 20 minutes of cardiovascular exercise, cardio, no more than an hour per day, or high intensity interval training. And the reason why is because, long story short, a lot of studies have shown that exercise helps on so many different avenues. And yes, it is so common sense and obvious, and yet so many people don't do it. Most people who live in the United States of America are overweight, obese, unhealthy, and have never exercised in months. And that's a sad truth. And so the problem oftentimes is twofold. The first is that they know it and they don't do it, and then the second one is obviously they simply really don't know the importance of it. I mean, they do, but they don't. They don't know how deep it runs. I've actually poured into the scientific research on evidence and evidence of exercise, and of course you can look this up on Google Scholar yourself. But exercise does more than just make you, a little bit more energetic. Exercise dramatically increases your focus, your energy levels. It makes you more attractive. It increases how long you live. It increases your cognitive ability, so you don't actually, you're not so prone to emotional outbreaks and all these different things. And the reason why I recommend the 2 types of exercise I mentioned rather than weightlifting, otherwise called resistance training, is because cardiovascular exercise works your heart muscle, which pumps blood via the circulatory system to everywhere in your body, and therefore it's working your entire body and making you stronger and more energetic, versus if you do something like maybe weightlifting only, what that's actually doing mainly is it's not working your heart muscle or blood or respiratory system, which are very important for your health and longevity, but it is mainly just making your muscles bigger. And so if you're just isolating one body part and making it bigger, it's really not, doing much good. So exercise is one of them, and there's plenty of books to explain this. And of course, there's a lot of misinformation about exercise. Some people will say this and that, and it's rather unfortunate, but it is what it is. But the second thing is meditation. Now, meditation, a lot of people think it's woo-woo or spiritual, and that's exactly what I thought initially. I thought it was religious or spiritual, but what changed my mind was reading Russell Simmons' books on meditation and his success. Russell is a very successful hip-hop mogul, and he was doing pretty well before he got into meditation. But he was a drug addict, and his businesses were doing well, but not nearly as well as after he started meditating. He got off drugs, his addictions faded, his mind was mush after the drugs, but thanks to meditation, he sharpened his focus, and all these great things came out of it. His business just like skyrocketed. And there's a lot of science and studies behind meditation, and fundamental core meditation has nothing to do with religion or spirituality. There's a lot of myths about meditation, but all it is just focusing on your breath and trying your best to push out thoughts when they arise. You don't have to do them forcibly, but you just have to acknowledge them and slowly push them away, which is the best way of getting rid of them. And that's it. No religious or spiritual involvement. And there's a great analogy I would like to use for meditation. It's kind of like, if you don't meditate, it's kind of like a computer that has not run an antivirus check, a defragmenting check, or a disk cleanup in years. So meditation, it's recurring like that. Your mind is the computer, and meditation is the defragment process, or the antivirus scan, or the disk cleanup. And there's a lot of science that backs up the effects of meditation. It actually physically changes the structure and composition of your brain, and it makes you more rational, more focused, more clear on what you should do, and less bound to illogical emotional behaviors. And you can assess situations more logically, especially when you're severely driven by emotions. So I have a bit of a temper, and I have a lot of, I've probably lack of control when my behavior is off, and I'm emotion driven. And of course, meditation helps with that. So that's the second thing. And so if you keep doing these throughout your life, they really will help. There's so many people who meditate who are successful. There's a correlation that doesn't guarantee causation, but the billionaire Ray Dalio does it for that reason. He is a hedge fund manager, and of course he has to work with a lot of emotionally driven business decisions, and he has done interviews where he has explained that he specifically does meditation for that rational brain restructuring, so that he doesn't make horrible emotion-based decisions. And there's all these sorts of other successful celebrities, Robert Downey Jr., and a lot of entrepreneurs like Pat Flynn, and all these different people, Tim Ferriss, who meditate. So I can go on and on about meditation, but let's finish with number 3. And the third one is lifelong learning. And this one is probably the biggest, which is why I saved it for the last. And it's the most unknown. And unlike exercise, which is more common knowledge, this one is one of those hidden secret gems. So I think I first uncovered this during an interview with Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett that I found on YouTube. It was filmed years ago. And basically Charlie, they're both billionaires. Charlie said, Warren is so much better at the age of 80 than he was at 60. And then he goes on this bit of a discussion on what lifelong learning is and how important it is. And again, you can search it up and you'll find it eventually on YouTube. But then I read this book by a very successful and wealthy investor called John Templeton. It's actually Sir John Templeton. He was knighted. And the book's called 21 Secrets to Success and Happiness. It's a very short read, but he goes beyond just giving investor advice. He was an investor. He gives advice on just general wealth creation and life happiness. And one of his big points in the book was you have to keep learning throughout your life. And long story short, what lifelong learning is learning throughout your life until you die. And most people do not do this. What most people do is they hate school, so they tell themselves throughout school, oh, I can't wait for the day when I graduate and I never have to go to school again and I can just go to work and not learn a thing. And that's what they do. Once they graduate college, they get a job, and every day, day in and day out, they do their job. They don't learn a single new thing, and they just, keep doing the same thing over and over again. And guess what happens? They don't progress in their workplace. They don't learn anything new. They don't develop new skills. They never rise upwards. And they just keep plodding along doing the same thing. And 40 years later, they're no better off than they were when they graduated college. Now, you don't want to do this. Instead, what you want to do is every day just learn something new. And so Charlie Munger, he has a phrase, I want to go to bed every day more knowledgeable, wiser than I did when I woke up. And you can even tack on other things like this. There's another successful business person. His name's Kevin O'Leary. He's from the TV show Shark Tank. And he says, he said this on his show, I want to go to bed richer than when I woke up. So you can kind of tack on different things. Like you can say, I want to go to bed richer, smarter, and more fit than I did when I woke up. But you don't want to go too deep. I don't want to overwhelm you, and you don't want to be overwhelmed, and I don't want to be overwhelmed. So long story short, just stick to that. Learn a little bit more. And it doesn't have to be much, because over the course of 70, 80, 90 years of your life, it will build up naturally. What's more important is just the consistency of it. Even if it's just half a page of a book every day, that will build up over 80 years. And so what matters more is getting that half a page and not slacking on that. Maybe it's an audiobook, maybe it's a video on YouTube,